What does it really take to be an effective leader? It's a question we're all still trying to figure out today. But it turns out it was also being asked over 2,500 years ago. So today, we're going to crack open one of history's most profound conversations on leadership. And the answers are surprisingly practical, and they come straight from the Analects of Confucius. So, where does this all begin? Well, it starts with this simple but powerful question from Zishang, who was one of Confucius's disciples. His question basically echoes through the halls of power even today. What does it actually take to be a good, effective leader? And let me tell you, Confucius's answer is a total masterclass in political wisdom. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to follow the exact structure Confucius laid out. We'll start with the absolute bedrock of power, then get into the positive actions a leader must take, what he called the five beauties. From there, we'll look at the big mistakes to avoid, the four evils, and then wrap it up with the essential personal knowledge every leader has to have. Now, before Confucius even gets to his do's and don'ts, he does something really interesting. He points way back to the legendary sage kings of ancient China. And why does he do that? He's making a point. Real leadership isn't just about clever strategy. It's built on a solid moral and ethical foundation. He kicks things off with this incredibly powerful vow from King Tang, the founder of the Shang dynasty. I mean, at first glance, it's just a few characters, right? But this isn't some political slogan. It is one of the most profound declarations of personal responsibility a leader could ever make. Just stop and think about the sheer weight of that statement for a second. It means a leader doesn't get to blame their advisors or the economy or the people themselves. Nope. If things go wrong, the ultimate fault lies with the ruler. Full stop. No excuses. And you might think, okay, maybe that was a one-off thing, but it wasn't. Confucius then points to King Wu from the later Zhao dynasty, who made a vow that's almost identical. This shows there's this continuous philosophical thread running through history. True leadership begins with radical accountability. So the huge takeaway here is that before a leader can even start thinking about policies or strategies, they have to adopt this mindset. For Confucius, this level of accountability is the non-negotiable price of admission to lead. So once that's established, how does it actually translate into action? Well, with that foundation of accountability locked in, Confucius gives Zhejiang a positive framework for what to do next. And these aren't just, abstract virtues. They are 5 incredibly practical principles for governing both effectively and ethically. These are the 5 beauties. You can think of them as the essential tools in a leader's toolkit for creating a state that's both prosperous and harmonious. So let's break down what each of these really means. Okay, the first beauty is all about smart governance. This isn't about expensive government programs or handouts. It's about figuring out what actually benefits the people and then guiding them to achieve it themselves. For instance, helping farmers with better irrigation directly helps them, which in turn helps the whole state, all without some massive, costly intervention. It's super efficient, and it's empowering. Number 2 is all about getting people to work together. Look, a leader is going to have to ask the people to work, right? Maybe on public projects. The key here is to pick tasks that are actually necessary and to do them at the right time. When people can see the value in what they're doing, like, say, building a dam that will protect their own homes, they'll contribute willingly, not because they feel forced to. Now, this one's a little more subtle, but it is so critical. A leader has to have ambition, a desire. But what should they desire? Confucius says they should desire ren, or benevolence, basically the ultimate good for society. That's a noble goal, and it's a world away from the selfish greed for personal wealth or power. This principle is all about how a leader carries themselves. Real authority doesn't come from being arrogant or looking down on people. It comes from being composed and consistent. A dignified leader treats every single person and every single issue with the same level of respect and seriousness, and that is what earns them genuine influence. And the final beauty is about a leader's presence. Confucius says a leader should be awe-inspiring but not terrifying. Think about it. A leader who is properly dressed, composed, and focused can command a room without ever raising their voice. Their power comes from their solemn presence, not from being fierce or threatening. All right, so after explaining what to do, Confucius delivers a really stark warning about what not to do. He calls these the 4 evils, and they aren't just mistakes. He sees them as total betrayals of what it means to be a leader. Just look at this list. What do all 4 of these have in common? They're all failures of basic process, communication, and fairness. Cruelty is punishing people for rules they never even knew existed. Tyranny is basically management by surprise attack. Thievery is setting people up to fail with vague instructions and then impossible deadlines. And officiousness? That's just being a petty, stingy bureaucrat. These things absolutely destroy trust and are the hallmarks of a terrible ruler. So we've covered accountability, the right actions to take, and the critical mistakes to avoid. For this final section, Confucius brings the lesson inward. He argues that great leadership isn't just about what a leader does, it's about what a leader fundamentally knows. At the very, very end of the Analects, Confucius says that a true leader, a jinzi or a noble person, has to understand three fundamental things. And as you see here, these three keys really form the inner core that makes all the other principles even possible. First, a leader has to know the mandate, which is just wisdom, really, accepting what you can't change. Second, they have to know the rights, which are the social structures and norms that hold a society together. And third, and this is huge, they must know words. This means being a master of communication, not to manipulate, but to genuinely understand people and to speak with absolute clarity and integrity. Without these three, Confucius says, a person simply can't lead. And there you have it. That's the roadmap. From radical accountability and the 5 beauties of good government, all the way to the 4 evils you have to avoid and the 3 keys to your own inner knowledge. So the final question really is for you. As you look at the world today, which one of these 2,500-year-old principles do you think our leaders need to hear the most?